Hi, this is Jonathan Rosenhead, Jerusalem psychotherapist. This week's Torah and Psychology post is Pasha Tetzaveh is titled Intellectual Honesty. In this week's Pasha, we read about the Big Day Kahuna, the clothes that the Kohen Gadol and the Kohanim would wear. And Rashi goes on to explain the different garments and what they looked like. But for the ephod, he says, I do not know. I don't know exactly what this is. And Rashi, being one of the most prominent commentators on the Torah, who usually is there to and is able to elucidate and explain the depths of the Torah, for him to say, I do not know, is significant. And indeed, Rabbi Akiva Eiger lists all the places in Rashi's commentary on the Torah where he says, I do not know. And for Rashi to be able to say, I don't have all the answers, I can't explain everything, that I do not know, shows a level of intellectual honesty. And we can relate this to psychological practice, because the interventions that we have are not just based on intuition or guesswork, but rather they are known as evidence-based practice, which means that they are based on research. So in academic research, we have quantitative and qualitative research. Quantitative research is based on statistics. It's when a person will have a theory or a hypothesis, and then this is tested through a rigorous process of statistical analysis. And so too with qualitative research. Some theory or hypothesis is then tested by taking the subjective experience of the participants, the personal point of view of the participants. And then the results from quantitative and qualitative research is written up in meets academic standards. Academic research is then peer reviewed, which means that other research will read the research and the results. And finally, it will then be published. And this means that it gets the rubber stamp, the seal of approval, that the research has met this standard of intellectual honesty. And then, therefore, the research can be used and can inform psychological practice. And there's a book called Thinking Fast and Slow by Dr. Daniel Kahneman. And in this book, he explains a theory called priming, which is that subliminal messaging can influence one's behavior. And he bases this theory on some research. And recently, this theory has been critiqued, and the commentators have said that the research that Dr. Daniel Kahneman based his theory on it had small data. It was statistically insignificant. And Dr. Daniel Kahneman responded to this criticism, and he said he agrees that he relied too much on the research, that he depended too much on the data of the research. And for him to say this shows a level of intellectual honesty, to be able to say, I made a mistake, that my research didn't necessarily meet the standard required for academic research, and therefore he is demonstrating intellectual honesty. But life is not always about this process of evidence-based practice or this rigorous process of academic research. In life in general, it can be difficult to say, I do not know, or that I made a mistake. People can find it difficult to meet this standard of intellectual honesty. Perhaps this is because of low self-esteem or some internal schema that not knowing equates to being a failure, or some distorted cognitive thinking process that they are always right. And this can prevent a person from saying these golden words of I do not know. And in particular in parenting, we see this, that children ask so many questions to their parents. They want to understand the world around them, and they ask their parents. And sometimes parents don't have answers. They don't have all the answers, but they can find it difficult to say, I do not know. And they try to give maybe some vague answer. So Rashi is a model for us, both in how we should approach Torah learning, but also a model for us in life. That we should be prepared to say these words, I do not know, and to honor and respect this value of intellectual honesty. Have a great Shabbos and keep well.